So, I did make a video saying that you are better than Peterbot, and that has aged like fine wine, because even in the new season, Poyo still carries him. If you don't know, Poyo has a damage ratio of 2.49 in the previous Div 1 Cup, which is the highest that any player had. Meanwhile, Peterbot was nowhere near. And with the new Surge, and given how Poyo's got much worse loadouts, it's quite clear, yeah, he's better. So we're going to break down just why Peterbot's still worse. So Peterbot does get into this fight here. He starts pressuring as well from a right hand angle, and then he's got no clue what he's doing. He ends up dropping his shotgun, and then he pops some spicy fish. And he's picking up this one. And then he's just moving round, and then he makes a bad peek here, and then he almost ends up dying. He's got no mats, which he's unaware of until he realises he can't build, and then he uses the harpoon gun to try and do anything. In this fight here, Peterbot goes for bolts and acorn, and so immediately goes to pressure bolts to shot at him first. However, he doesn't protect himself and ends up getting shot in the back by bolts. He has no light ammo and wastes his entire mag just pressuring here. And so they regroup, and now Peterbot needs Poyo to go and give him a ton of light ammo, something which we're going to see a lot here. Now, they end up going and using the overdrive grenades, not shockwave into them, but using the speed boost that they get from the shockwave, and then they move round. Now, Peterbot does this nicely, baiting a right hand peek and then circling back to do damage. Then he drops down, predicting Acorn's movement, and yes, he does kill him, which, fair enough. This is quite good against a tier 1 pro. However, this will be his only showing of doing anything in this Div Cup, which Poyo didn't outclass him in every way. So this fight is absurdly long, and this clip that I have isn't even the full fight. So this is 2 minutes before the kill, and I'm just going to basically break down what's important. So Peterbot does pressure well here, and keep applying pressure very effectively here, not giving much time for the player to breathe. However, he does take a lot of damage there from a poor edit. And then Poyo is here to help him. This is good team play. And then for some reason Poyo's in the air. Just replay lag. And then let's see what happens next. Pete and Poyo see that the duo is now back onto the height. So what they end up doing is they use the key part of the overdrive grenade, not the shockwave, but the speed boost that they get from it to take height in the fight, burying them down into their boxes. And Pete then ends up going and taking the 3 big pots on top of the surge base. Now, how they approach this fight here is actually quite simple. Pete circles round looking for a footstep audio, which he gets from one of the players, Kanala, not being crouched, and then he tries to get an edit, but he can't. So he ends up circling back, but then he gets shot, not realising that the player was there. So Peterbot ends up healing, and then Kanala starts to pressure him. He gets a ramp in his box, and then he drops down to where Poyo is after they both retreat, and then he starts pressuring from the same area that he ended up going and editing the cone. Now from here, he then ends up going and healing up because, well, he's got time. He ends up popping both big pots while Poyo pressures the duo by himself because Peterbot was silly enough to take that damage. Then he ends up dropping down here. He lands 142 damage and has to wait, but Storm knocks out Kanala's duo. So then he ends up just going and he's pressuring with Poyo, and then he just manages to get into his box, and Kanala's also dead. Now when they're in the endgame here, I'm just going to highlight the stuff that's important. Cold ends up pressuring Peter and Poyo, and Pete just gets the easy kill here, using the mythic reloader shotgun. Right here, Peterbot and Poyo are scouting the next rotate, and then they use the overdrive grenade using the shockwave to boost them, and then they go into circle using the speed boost that they get from it to tarp as quickly as possible. Peterbot and Poyo end up meeting back up, and then they plan their next attempt to take height. However, they never see an opportunity, so they end up catching this player out instead, and Poyo ends up getting the kill, but they're not able to get much of the refresh. They end up going for the overdrive shockwaves, and then they start to rotate. Peterbot makes poor decisions as the IGL, and ends up tarping into Clicks and Higgs, and they just destroy him, leaving Poyo left as a solo, since after even killing Clicks, there's still not a chance that Peterbot can get revived. Otherwise, they end up throwing the game and they lose the tournament. Naturally, Poyo's also in shambles with 4 guns, no rotation, and hardly anything in the chug, not even a full one. So he ends up here, and then he sees this player right next to him, so he just edits, gets the kill, gets the refresh, hardly any mats, so and then he ends up getting literally no bills. He's got 2 bills left, and he has to clutch this. And unfortunately, spoilers, but you will probably already know, he doesn't and clicks win the tournament. So this ends up happening. He takes out Muzz's duo, he pressures Muzz, and he tries to get to him, but he's not able to, so he ends up going through into the building because he's got no mats, and he ends up breaking this wall. He's got no build still after walking, and then he's got 9 kills, jumps in here, and then he ends up dying. So I hope that you take from this video that Peterbot is overrated. Poyo has been carrying him, and thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.